Ferrari arrives in Austria carrying a fact that should make its rivals start paying attention. Lewis Hamilton has just won the Spanish Grand Prix with a highly convincing performance, but there is one important detail that may have gone unnoticed by many people. The car that won in Barcelona was not running Ferrari's latest engine upgrade. While many teams are still trying to understand the performance gains delivered by the SF26, following the major aerodynamic packages introduced in Miami and Barcelona, Ferrari is preparing to bring a new weapon to the Red Bull ring. It is not an upgrade that sounds spectacular on paper. Ferrari itself admits that the power increase is relatively small. Some reports suggest it is worth only around 5 to 9 horsepower. Looking purely at the numbers, that may not sound particularly impressive. In a sport where discussions often revolve around tens of horsepower, such a small increase should not be enough to change the competitive order. But this is exactly where the story becomes interesting. Ferrari does not view ADUO as an upgrade that will instantly make the car faster at every circuit. Instead, they are targeting something far more important. They want to widen the setup window of the car, give their engineers greater freedom to find the optimal balance, and unlock performance that may have been hidden within the SF26 all along. Austria provides the perfect environment to test that theory. The characteristics of the Red Bull ring, with its emphasis on engine performance, energy efficiency, and traction, should quickly reveal whether Ferrari has genuinely found something significant, or whether expectations surrounding ADUO have been exaggerated. So the question is this: will Ferrari's engine upgrade in Austria genuinely change the course of the 2026 title fight? Or is this simply the first step towards something much bigger later in the season? If you want to find out the answer, make sure to subscribe, and let's take a closer look at why Austria could mark the end of one phase of Ferrari's development and the beginning of another. To understand why Ferrari is treating this upgrade differently from a conventional power increase, it is important to look at the context in which it arrives. The Austrian Grand Prix comes only one race after Barcelona, a weekend that many inside the paddock now view as a turning point in Ferrari's season. The SF26 arrived in Spain, carrying the benefits of the aerodynamic developments introduced throughout recent months. Those upgrades did not simply improve peak performance. They improved tyre degradation, aerodynamic efficiency, and overall balance. More importantly, they appeared to make the car significantly more predictable for both Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc. That predictability matters because it allows drivers to consistently operate closer to the car's limit without constantly fighting instability. The result was obvious. Ferrari looked competitive over a single lap and convincing over a race distance. Hamilton's victory was not built around unusual circumstances or strategic fortune. It was built around pace. That is why Austria is attracting so much attention. Ferrari is not introducing ADUO to fix a fundamentally flawed package. The team is introducing it to a car that already appears capable of winning races. Yet Ferrari itself has been remarkably cautious when discussing expectations. Enrico Gualtieri, Ferrari's head of power unit, described the development as a limited update, and on its own it will not be enough to change the competitive order. That statement is important because it immediately removes the most obvious interpretation. Ferrari is not promising a dramatic leap forward. They are not suggesting that Austria will suddenly transform the SF26 into an untouchable machine. Instead, they are describing ADUO as one component within a much larger development program. Internally, the upgrade is known as ICEADUO. Estimates regarding its performance gain vary depending on the source. Some reports suggest 8 to 9 additional horsepower. Others indicate the true figure may be closer to 5. Either way, nobody inside Ferrari appears interested in presenting horsepower as the main story. The reason becomes clearer when examining Ferrari's own explanation of the project. Formula One engineers rarely speak about setup windows in public because it is not a particularly exciting phrase. Fans naturally focus on top speed, lap time, and power figures. Engineers focus on how easily a car can reach its optimum operating range. A narrow setup window creates compromises. Improving one area often damages another. A wider setup window gives engineers more flexibility to optimize the entire package. That is exactly what Ferrari says ADUO is designed to achieve. Rather than chasing a small gain in straight-line speed, Ferrari wants to create more options when configuring the SF26 for different circuits and conditions. If the engineers gain greater freedom when balancing downforce, drag, tyre management and mechanical characteristics, the overall performance benefit can become much larger than the raw horsepower figure suggests. This is particularly relevant at the Red Bull Ring. On paper, Spielberg looks deceptively simple, only 10 corners, a short lap, relatively straightforward layout. In reality, it is one of the more demanding technical tests on the calendar. The circuit sits approximately 700 meters above sea level. The thinner air reduces cooling efficiency for both the power unit and braking systems. It changes aerodynamic behavior. It affects energy management. It creates additional challenges for teams attempting to balance performance and reliability. The layout itself is built around heavy braking zones followed by strong acceleration phases. Rear tyres are placed under significant thermal stress. Longitudinal loads become more important than lateral loads. Traction is critical. In other words, Austria is exactly the kind of circuit where improvements in energy deployment, power delivery, and overall efficiency can become immediately visible. That is why the location of Ferrari's first ADUO upgrade feels deliberate. The team could have introduced it elsewhere. Instead, the first appearance comes at a circuit where every aspect of power unit performance is exposed. There is another layer to this story as well. The new engine specification is not only about performance, it also creates operational flexibility. By introducing an updated power unit, Ferrari gains the ability to rotate between older and newer specifications depending on the requirements of each race weekend. That flexibility helps manage engine mileage and preserve reliability across the remainder of the season. Reliability may not generate headlines, but championships are often shaped by it. One of Ferrari's strengths throughout the opening phase of the season has been the robustness of its power unit package. While several rivals have encountered reliability concerns, Ferrari has largely avoided major setbacks. That foundation matters because it allows Ferrari to pursue additional performance without simultaneously trying to solve fundamental mechanical weaknesses. The strategy suggests a team thinking beyond a single race. And that brings us to the most intriguing aspect of the entire ADUO story. Austria is not the end. It is the beginning. Multiple reports indicate Ferrari's second ADUO upgrade is already under development and could arrive later in the season, potentially around Zandvoort or Monza. Unlike ADUO, the second phase is expected to be considerably more significant. Current indications suggest the focus will shift towards the turbocharger. Ferrari's existing philosophy has relied on a relatively small turbocharger. The concept offered advantages in responsiveness and acceleration characteristics, but it also came with compromises in outright power compared with rival manufacturers. According to the information emerging from Italy, Ferrari engineers are evaluating substantial revisions in this area as part of the next stage of development. That helps explain why the team appears so calm regarding the modest gains expected from Austria. They are not treating ADUO as the decisive strike. They are treating it as the opening move. Viewed through that lens, Ferrari's messaging suddenly makes much more sense. The team is repeatedly emphasizing optimization rather than transformation, progress rather than revolution. Every indication suggests Ferrari believes the SF26 already possesses a strong aerodynamic platform. The major development phase effectively concluded with the packages introduced in Miami and Barcelona. Reports suggest those upgrades alone improved the car by 7 to 8 tenths compared to its launch specification. If that estimate is even close to reality, Ferrari's biggest challenge is no longer discovering performance. It is extracting all of it. That distinction matters. Finding performance and using performance are not the same thing. Many Formula One upgrades look impressive in simulation, but fail to deliver their full potential on track. Ferrari appears determined to avoid that trap. Gualtieri highlighted the importance of rapidly transferring lessons from the circuit back into the development process. Data gathered during practice sessions becomes engineering solutions. Engineering solutions become upgrades. Upgrades generate new data. The cycle repeats. The faster a team completes that cycle, the greater the potential advantage. Ferrari believes ADUO can contribute to that process by making the SF26 easier to optimize. And if Austria confirms those expectations, the implications extend beyond one weekend. Mercedes will certainly be watching closely. The W17 remains one of the most complete cars on the grid, but Austria presents challenges. High temperatures and altitude place additional stress on cooling systems and battery components. Reliability has already become a recurring concern during the season. Red Bull also arrives with significant upgrades of its own. Weight reduction, aerodynamic revisions, and continued development of the RB22 ensure the home team remains a serious threat. McLaren continues searching for greater consistency and improved understanding of its package. Yet, despite all those storylines, much of the paddock's attention keeps returning to Ferrari, not because of what ADUO is, but because of what it might become. The Austrian Grand Prix therefore serves as an unusually important reference point. If Ferrari gains only a small advantage, the narrative remains largely unchanged. If the team suddenly appears easier to set up, more consistent across conditions, and slightly more efficient in critical areas, then ADUO may prove far more valuable than the horsepower figures suggest. And if that happens, attention will immediately shift towards the second phase of Ferrari's development program. Because the possibility hanging over the championship is obvious. What happens if the Ferrari that won in Barcelona was only the beginning? What happens if the aerodynamic package introduced in Spain has already unlocked most of the SF26's potential, and the power unit program is now starting to catch up? Austria may not provide every answer. One race never does, but it could provide the first meaningful clues, and those clues might tell us whether Ferrari's recent resurgence is simply a temporary improvement or the start of a genuine championship challenge that continues to grow stronger through the second half of the season. So, what do you think? Is ADUO being overhyped because of a relatively small horsepower gain? Or is Ferrari quietly building something that could become the benchmark package by the end of the year? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.